We're TMAC. We help businesses make better decisions faster. We specialize in delivering artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions quickly, but to a high standard in customer engagement, marketing, customer service, and coaching. We believe that everything has been done before and that it can be done quickly. So, if you're tired of being told to wait whilst also being overcharged, visit our website at tmac.ai/vid for more information. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Migliore. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for the Modular Analytics Company. We've got a special episode of TMAC Talks here for you today. I'm with George Hartshorn, who is TMAC's Chief Information Officer, and we're going to be talking to him about the ins and outs of data science. George, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. How did you get into data science? I guess it's not a niche thing now, but I guess like several years ago, it was slightly more niche. So how did you come to it?
Yeah, it's a thing that everybody sort of wants to be involved in now, immediately out of university. I had no great plans to get into data science directly out of uni. I sort of fell into it, I think. And when I was first getting started out of uni, we were just in the recovery after the financial crash. So I graduated in 2010.
Right.
So it was pretty tough. I found a job in analytics working for British Gas Business, who are based in Leicester. Put in my time there, did about 5 years, and then I've worked in a variety of consulting roles beyond that. And as time's gone on, I've sort of just followed the things that interest me. And a lot of that has been around working with more complex data structures. So things like audio data, visual data, all that sort of stuff, which effectively makes me a data scientist, I think. It's, as I say, it's not something that I've done courses in. It's not something that I've, followed my passions to become.
Yeah.
What I am.
Though for our viewers out there, George is like me, very passionate about music, and I'm sure you can talk about a couple of really cool exercises of data science that have been related to music or that have been done with music that you like.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a website called everynoise.com, which is really interesting visual of all the different genres that people listen to on Spotify. So it looks at every genre that has been input into Spotify, reads the music, gets an understanding of things like how sparse or dense it is, how organic or electronic it is, and maps that all out and allows you to go and explore. So that's a really cool data science app that I'm a big fan of.
I guess it's interesting, isn't it? Like how we're both quite passionate about music, but although we're not doing something like directly related to it, we're in roles where we're like tangentially doing things with it. Like, speech analytics is not that far off from it, and obviously like our core products, Phonetic, which is the most affordable speech analytics platform in the market now. And the newest, also the only one that's been behaviorally informed. Cheap plug there for our audience, but it's great that like you've been able to bring like some of your skills, and I suppose there must be some sort of passion there, right? Like for kind of like visualizing all of that out and what have you, I'd say.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really interesting looking at audio data because it behaves very differently to standard structured data in a database. It's sort of part time series, and the way that you interpret it when in neural networks for transcription is very complex because it works almost phonetically. But there's a lot of sort of cool tricks that you have to do to get it from the raw output into something that's usable.
And is that what like keeps you going in terms of data science? Like, is that what you like about it? Is basically, it sounds like you're almost like an explorer, like you've got to test like different, I want to say like adventurer. Like, am I making data science sound sexy? Like, I don't know. It's kind of like that's when you say, "Oh, Mike, data science is sexy." No, what what is it that keeps you going about data science?
So I think it is just a thirst for knowledge, really. I'm always doing things that make me a little bit uncomfortable, that I don't really understand, but I'm pretty confident in the knowledge that that information is out there. I'll be able to find it, and I'll figure it out along the way. And that's really where we came to with the speech transcription work. I'd done some work with audio data before, but nothing in huge amounts of depth. So we just went and researched, took the time to learn, looked at all the resources that were online that were available to us, and just started jumping in. And the first version of the transcription that we had was pretty awful. It's now in a really good place, and to the point that we're comfortable bringing it to the marketplace.
Awesome, awesome. And for those of you that are interested in learning more about phonetic, just head over to our website, tmac.ai/phonetic. Is there anything about data science that you dislike? And is there anything more broadly about the kind of cottage industry that data science is that you dislike?
The thing that I like the least about data science is the amount of data work that you have to do to get to a usable output.
Right.
It's sort of a fundamental truth of data science that, everyone wants to spend the time doing the modeling and
Yeah.
building really cool predictive algorithms and building front ends for web apps and all that sort of stuff. But really, you're going to have to get your hands dirty in the data, and you're going to have to do some pretty unpleasant tasks. Case in point, for our transcription algorithm, I spent a full 24 hours a couple of weeks ago manually transcribing calls.
Oh, wow.
That was not fun. But it's gotten us to a really good place, and it allowed me to do some cool stuff on the back of it.
Yeah, that sounds extraordinarily painful. As an industry, do you think is there anything wrong with data science that you don't like?
I think one of the problems with data science as an industry is that really you've got to give data science a lot of space to do the job that you want it to do.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of thing where you can just point an algorithm at some data and solve a bunch of problems. You need the data scientist to be a really strong communicator, speak to the business, understand the challenges, and then go digging and figure stuff out as they go. You can't expect someone to just come in fresh as a consultant or as a permanent employee and just understand the ins and outs of your data, build some magic and solve all your problems. That's not going to happen. It takes time and it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that in a former role where you had senior leadership who were investing a huge amount in data science and data scientists, as well as like just general capability in terms of technology, and thinking that, oh, this was like the magic bullet that was going to solve all our problems. And then there's like a huge, you know, curve of like learning around, actually, that's not how it works. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
And I suppose like that brings us very nicely on to the next question, which, as you guessed, was about AI. And I suppose like that those two letters get thrown around a lot. I think in my view, and I know we've talked about this like offline separately as well, but like often wrongly, around. And I was certainly guilty of it, at the beginning of my kind of career with AI, but where it's just like not the correct use of the term. It's not even accurately reflecting like what the technology is doing. So what do you think the best and the worst things about like this increased awareness of AI amongst like commercial leaders is? And is there, what are the like the upsides or downsides to that?
That's a really good question. I think fundamentally, there's no concise description of what AI is. There's no definition of what AI is. And I
Yeah.
think it causes a lot of problems because, on the one hand, you've got the people who are selling AI solutions, which are not actually that complicated. They're putting AI on it to almost give themselves credibility
Yeah.
to the senior leaders. The senior leaders then latch onto that because it's the current buzzword.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
you
it
know,
makes it look good, basically.
yeah, they're really excited about it. We've got some AI in, it's going to solve a bunch of problems. And it ties into my answer about data science in that it's not a magic bullet solution.
Mm.
Um, AI isn't at the point at the moment where you can just point it at some new data and it will just figure everything out. You have to go through training phases. You have to train your models on your specific domain in order to get the most out of them. And that's really one of the biggest problems, I think, is the perception that AI is a silver bullet solution that you can just buy and it'll solve a load of your problems. Again, it's a collaborative effort between the vendor and the purchaser, because an AI solution is never going to understand all the ins and outs of your data just by itself.
Yeah. So okay, it's interesting because that's effectively that was going to be my next question was like, what do you think? How can we improve the situation? Um, and I guess what I would say to that as well is like there's probably a certain level of responsibility for the vendor to like slowly just like educate almost like the commercial people or the decision makers. I certainly welcome that. I did welcome it certainly when I was schooled by a data scientist. Heimakams, if you're watching, still remember your schoolings in AI and machine learning. But yeah, like I certainly appreciated that level of like kind of like assertive stakeholder management. Like, do you think is that the answer, like, or is it just down to like the responsibility of like the commercial decision maker to educate themselves like before they come into a conversation like this?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. If a client doesn't have a good data structure, a data warehouse at least, or data lakes and that sort of stuff in
Yeah.
place, then looking at AI is probably not what I would recommend. I would probably recommend that they get their data into a really robust platform first that will support the use of AI later. It's not a particularly sexy solution. It's not something that's going to drive really obvious immediate revenues, which
Yeah.
is what I think senior leaders can often be wooed by. But it's a fundamental step that everyone should go through if they're interested in AI. I think on the other hand, vendors absolutely need to be really upfront with what the expectation is to get the most out of their platforms. If you're selling an AI solution that's going to optimize a sales pipeline, you need to be very clear with your prospective client that if the data is not in the right shape, there's going to be a data transformation piece of work that goes on, or this starts delivering any sort of benefit. And what are the costs of that? What's the length of time that's going to take? I think all that stuff needs to be very, very clear up front.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in my view, I think as a newbie to the SaaS world of things, I do think that there's a lot of misrepresentation by companies like that, and it's certainly like even before I was working for TMAC, I got approached by companies that were generally misrepresenting like what they were selling, and were very unclear about like some of the actual things that need to happen within the business first in order to enable like the right kinds of progress with the technology they sold. And I feel like it's a problem in the industry that I think brands like TMAC are trying to help curb, like where actually as part of being proudly different and living those values, it's like being upfront and honest and saying exactly what you just said to our clients, which is like maybe you're not ready for this yet. Like maybe actually what you need is something that's a little bit more hygiene-esque.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So George, just one last question. So, what is your favorite animal?
My favorite animal,
Mm,
penguin.
why?
I just think they're funny.
Okay. I can't say I've ever thought about penguins as a proper animal, but there you have it, folks. So that's George Hartshorn, TMAC CIO, giving us his views about everything that's good and perhaps not so good with the world of data science and AI. You can find out more about TMAC and our products at tmac.ai. And until next time, this is George Hartshorn. I'm Mike Migliore. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.